Well, another NTFL season has come to a close and there were a few surprises in there. One, Nightcliff broke the hoodoo. They hadn't won a grand final since 1964 and they did it. They beat Southern Districts in the grand final and there was joy to be shared everywhere with the Tigers. The other thing that was a big positive that came out of the season was the performance of the Tiwi Bombers. The year before, they went out in the first round of the finals. This year they went deeper than that. A couple of rounds through until the preliminary final, then they came up against the eventual winners. But they had quite a season, the Tiwi Bombers, and they are confronted by so many challenges. And joining me is the coach of the Tiwi Bombers, Brenton. Brenton, nice to talk to you. You must have been pretty thrilled with the fact that you went deeper. That was your plan all year, was to go deeper into the finals this year than you did the year before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think any coach just wants to, when you come to a club, make sure that you leave it in a better place than what it was when you got there. And certainly when I came, we were a wooden spoon team and I think we had 2 wins for the year. So to make the finals the following year and then to make a prelim the year after that, I think, speaks volumes, I guess for the playing group, but for the Tiwi community and their resilience.
Your belief was extraordinary because at the start of the season, 0-5, the first 5 games you lost. For the rest of us, we were thinking this is not going to be a good season for you, but you hung tough. You still believed that they would improve. Yeah,
we had a constant theme in the back end of the year, and the key word in that was belief, and it was belief from the coaching staff, in ourselves and each other, but belief in our players, and letting them, believe in themselves and trust each other. So. That belief aspect was a big part, I think, in terms of how far we were able to make it in the finals.
A lot of people got to the footy. They had record numbers at the NTFL this year. Part of that had to do with the Tiwi Bombers, part to do with the Darwin Buffaloes, because the Darwin Buffaloes for about 3/4 of the season looked as though they were going to be grand final material, but they fell away. They went over the cliff late in the season and then you pounced. That's when the Tiwi Bombers arrived, almost at the same time. That was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was it's a hard season to sort of map out. Like Buffaloes were doing great at the beginning of the year and we were thinking that they were going to be a top 3 team and really going to be a serious threat to the premiership. They played in the grand final last year and lost, but not really sure sort of what happened there and how the wheels come off. And equally, I'm not really sure how we sort of to get our act together and put our wheels back on, but it worked out for us. And you mentioned the support there, and the Tiwi supporters are just incredible. They generate so much enthusiasm and noise and excitement at the ground for just a small group of supporters, and very passionate. But the thing that really struck me was how the Tiwi supporters really rallied and stuck by the group when we lost the prelim. There was probably more people out on the ground after a loss than the win a couple of weeks before. So. It was just a really good experience to see the impact that football has on the community, and I guess the love that the people had for the game and their players, and even when we lost, they were right behind us. Terrific.
Calmness, such an important part of a coach's makeup. You were, externally you showed such calmness, but the last time we talked, you talked a little bit about the duck swimming in the water, which I thought was quite an extraordinary comment.
Yeah, look, and I think that's part of leadership, is being able to steady the ship and let everybody know that, look, we are okay and things will be okay. Let's just stick to the process, and if things don't work out for us now, they'll work out for us later. But I think the key was not to panic, and I think anybody in any leadership role, as soon as the people who are in charge start to panic, well then things can sort of go pear-shaped pretty quickly. So. We had a really strong sort of message, to the assistant coaches that we don't panic, and certainly we had to make sure that we kept all the messaging positive and we just didn't slip back into, a negative mindset and really bring ourselves down. And I think that was another big key, is that we just kept our calm, we didn't panic, and the players were able to relax, and I think that's what helped them perform.
2 questions I want to ask you. One, was there a point in the season where you felt the change, where you thought, we're now going where I want to go? And the second thing, to answer the question about Cyril Rioli, the recently retired Hawthorn champion who came back to the Tiwi Bombers and was a runner for most of the season. Did those 2 things work together?
I don't know if they're necessarily connected as such, but both of them had, both sort of events had a good impact on the season. Last year, we got right up until Christmas, and the boys had a bit of a sort of deep and meaningful heart-to-heart, amongst themselves about what was required, and then they came out after Christmas and won, I think we finished 5th, and we lost our first final, only final. Whereas this year, I probably noticed that the boys realised that something needed to be done a bit earlier, so it had probably happened maybe 3 weeks before Christmas. So I looked at it then, and even though we weren't in a great position and we weren't winning, I saw, or got a sense that we'd turned the corner, and the playing group were at the point where they were ready to take responsibility for what needed to change there. And I think that happened a little bit earlier this year. Even though we weren't winning and performing, I think the turn in the corner happened a bit earlier. And to the second point, Cyril came and just, through his connection with Austin Wanamiri and Shane Tipperman Tameri, and obviously, his family for all of the Tiwi mob at home anyway. But he was terrific, for myself, and he brought a real sort of calming, influence to the group as well. Like, boys, don't panic. And this is a guy that's been on, the biggest stage of them all and been the best player on the ground. And to have him sort of give the advice, and it was very simple advice: just keep it simple, play the percentages, don't panic, and stay positive. And just having that coming from someone, of his calibre, I think speaks volumes, for him. But the impact that it had on the players, I think, was terrific as well. And whether it was the reason why we turned around or whether it was just a contributing factor, I don't know. But it's probably easy to understate his impact or his influence that he had for a guy who's so humble. He didn't want any credit, didn't want any sort of fuss made out about him. And like he didn't come in like he's the expert. He just was happy to fit in with the boys, and I think that was great for us. It just made us feel good.
Of course, they all held their breath, the people who were involved in footy in the Territory, because they expected that one day he was going to pull on the Tiwi Bomber jumper and run out and play. Did you have a discussion with him? Did it ever get close to him wanting to play?
No, certainly not from me. He might have spoken to a few players about it, but I just thought that it would have been disrespectful, given where he's come from and what he was doing and probably what he was going through, to say, well, look, we want you to come and play. And it was probably a smart move in the end, is that we just left him, to his own device and made up his mind in his own time where he wanted to place himself when he come back, because, like his father was my favourite player at St Mary's, Cyril Rioli Senior. And he would have been under a lot of pressure to go back there. The Long family, his mother's the Long, and I think his in-laws is Brent Renoff, and so there would have been pressure on him to go back to Saints. And I think for us it wasn't about football. And I can't remember who I spoke to, but very rarely, do I talk to him about footy or whatever. Like we speak to him about family and what it means to be connected to each other, and how strong the bond that we've got and how special and unique it is. And I think that's going to be more of a draw card than anything, is just that ability to reconnect. And he helped us too. Like we've sort of got a different group, and we've got guys that have grown up on the islands and lived there and never left. We've got guys that have been away periodically and come back. We've got guys who've been away for their schooling, and like Austin Wanamiri, and 7 years out of community, and Cyril, I think, was 17 years away. Then guys like myself who, families from there but never lived there. So I think him being able to see himself reflected in the rest of the group was important, that he could see that, we've all got different journeys, but we all come from the same origin, and we all end up, back to where we started. And I think that's probably the most powerful thing in all of it, and had very little to do with football.
And the style of footy that the Tiwi Bombers played just absolutely excited everybody, and the media got on board, but there was lots of interest in a couple of players normally, or usually, Austin Wanamiri and Ross Tungatullum. That's where the interest was. But there was a number of other players, Randy Mungatobi, Michael Dundas, these other players that rarely got a mention, rarely got noticed. And when it came Nichols medal night and the medal votes were counted, very few Tiwi Bombers players got votes apart from the two that I mentioned. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, look, and all credit to the winner, Philip Wills, like very, deserving winner and terrific player, great fella off field, and deserved to win it. I guess with our guys, there's probably a perception that the Tiwi players, flash in and flash out, but I think that's maybe a little bit sort of categorising and putting people into boxes. They're not all like that. And the style we play, like we're not big accumulators, like we get a lot of footy on the outside. We share the football around a lot. It's fast running, so I don't know if it's, whether people just struggle to keep up with the who's who, or even just being able to differentiate. Like we've got a group, of players that are predominantly, all, Aboriginal, and whether umpires or selectors or whoever it is have that level of exposure and they're able to differentiate players quite easily. I don't know whether that has an impact or not, but certainly from our point of view, it's not a big deal. I think if you asked anybody whether they'd want a Nichols medal or a premiership, they'd take the premiership any day of the week. So we don't play for, or they don't play for individual accolades. It's about the team, but I guess it is nice, every now and then to be recognised, for your performance, and probably unfortunate for a few of our guys that they don't.
Sum up the season for us in a few words.
Wow. That's about it. But look, the season, it was a seesaw, really, a bit of a roller coaster. You can name all of the analogies, but started off horribly, and we had some really difficult issues to work through on the island at the beginning of the year. Some real serious social sort of stuff that we had to I guess deal with and get through and then heal from and then get back. So it was an interesting season, but I think in the end it'd be hard to sort of say anything else but a success. Even though we didn't win a flag, I think we learnt a lot throughout the year. A lot of kids got more experience. A group of players understood their role and what it takes, to be competitive, and now they understand what it takes to win a flag. So it was a roller coaster. It was ups and downs, and it was enjoyable. But I think there was more good than bad, and I think at the end of it, we were just proud. We were proud of where we'd come from to where we'd got to. We were proud of the way that we got there, the way that we carried ourselves, and there was just a sense of pride among the group and everybody back home on the islands.
So there you were, the duck on the water, looking very, very calm, and underneath the water, those feet are going at 100 miles an hour. You were working very, very hard at it. So you know the challenge now. If you want to go one better next year, you're going to have to get through to a grand final. Yep. And if you want to go one better than that even, you've got to win the grand final. Brenton, nice to talk to you. Congratulations on a good season. You brought us great entertainment, and I think the football public just really rallied around the Bombers when you got the run going late in the season, and certainly put a lot more people at the footy. So thanks so much for the season, and thanks so much for talking to us today.
Absolutely, thank you.